The Bentley House and the Richardson House across the street on the college campus are characteristic of the Victorian homes built by Poultney's new wealth, created by the mercantilism that served the immigrants working in the slate quarries. The Bentley is a well-conserved example of the so-called painted ladies, typical of the grander Victorian-era homes. Gaudy, colorful, and irregular describe the Queen Anne style, and the Bentley House includes many of the typical features, an asymmetrical design with an offset tower. It was built in 1895 by a real estate broker for his son, a merchant named William Broughton, who married Jane Edwards. Now, Jane's sister lived across the street at 9 Bentley Avenue. She married one of the sons of Robert Humphrey, who'd built the Humphrey Block and operated the newspaper. Not to be outdone by the neighboring homes or by her sister, she and her husband constructed this imposing Queen Anne colonial revival-style home about 1900. Note the decorative qualities and intricate design of these Queen Anne homes, more evidence of a wealth earned from the town's unique blend of resources and commerce. These were homes built in the Gilded Age from the 1880s to the 1900s. Note the unpredictable window spacing, the various and ornate colors, and woodwork that features turned columns and geometric patterns made possible in part by the introduction of machine lathes. Rufus Broughton, the real estate broker who built the Bentley House for his son, built one of the more striking homes on the street in 1885 in a Queen Anne Eastlake style with an unusually ornate porch at the corner of Bentley and Roberts Avenues. Peek down Roberts Avenue and note the roof on the second house, a striking multicolored slate roof. The stone building that now houses the Poultney Public Library was built in 1910 as home to the Citizens National Bank, which closed during the Depression. Its neoclassical revival style features rusticated marble, which creates a bold appearance with deep joints and shadow lines. Over 2 centuries of operation, the town's libraries have had many homes, starting in East Poultney in 1790. Later, a library was housed across the street at Mrs. James Farnham's house, and then moved to the Old Town Hall in 1900. During the period the library was in Town Hall, the Red Cross set up emergency rooms in 1918, most likely for the Spanish flu epidemic. At one time, the library's Board of Trustees approved a nursery school there on the condition that a 3-foot wall separated the children from library patrons. When the Puritan Dress Company asked to use the entire town hall first floor, another location had to be found for the library. It moved here in 1957. Because of the smaller space, the library had to dispose of over 7,000 books and some unique collections, including a display of birds from 1915, now part of the Poultney Historical Society's collections in East Poultney. This building is named in honor of a former owner, Thankful Mears, the daughter of Solon Sherman, who operated the grist mill behind the house. Her grandfather, Olcott, a harness maker, moved from East to West Poultney in 1835, and it's likely he built this house shortly thereafter. Built around 1840, this brick Greek Revival house has a lovely curved stairway in the entrance hall. At the turn of the last century, Harry Sherman operated the feed and grain business in the mill house behind this building. His wife Alice had a photographic studio next door, which she reached by a tunnel under the drive, avoiding the winter snow. Next up is 2 buildings down, a solid all-brick building. The building dates back to the early 1800s, when the town was just being settled. In the mid-1800s, this building served as an office to a successful town doctor. After his retirement, a young couple used the building for a barber shop. As with many buildings in town, this was built in stages. The second floor was added later, as evidenced by 2-colored brickwork and the late-era Victorian trim on the cornices. By the turn of the 20th century, those who'd arrived as immigrants 50 years earlier to work in the slate quarries had been assimilated. By now, they'd built fine houses, and their children and grandchildren were working in the trades and professions. The earliest and largest of these immigrant groups, the Welsh, built this Welsh Presbyterian church in 1901. Sheathed in multicolored slate and sitting on a quarry stone foundation, this church reflects the work and the spirit of its parishioners. It features straight and uplifting Gothic structures contrasted with such Queen Anne filigree as fish scale and diamond shingles. In the 1920s and 30s, this church sponsored the Welsh Male Chorus, whose singers performed nationally. Today, it's the last surviving Welsh church in Vermont. The stone bridge has been here since nearly the beginning of Poultney. Like the town itself, this house has seen many changes and survived times of prosperity and hardship. The stone bridge took its name from the stone bridge that crosses the nearby creek. The original house was built in 1808 by one of Poultney's first settlers, Thomas Ashley, for his daughter. He constructed a federal-style residence that forms the central part of what is now the stone bridge. The stone bridge has had many owners, many uses, and many remodels. Its owners both reflected and shaped the town's changing fortunes. In 1840, financier and politician Merritt Clark purchased the home and added the two wings and a Greek Revival front. Here he opened the first bank of Poultney in the west wing. The bank vault was in the cellar of this wing, where the foundation walls are 5 feet thick. Clark was credited with saving the Troy Conference Academy in 1848 by refinancing its debt. In 1901, the stone bridge became the property of F.W. Barrett, owner of the area's largest department store. In 1952, Dr. and Mrs. E.J. Swinier bought the home. The doctor had his offices in the East Wing and practiced until his retirement in 1983. Quite a few Poultney residents still remember their visits to the doctor's office. The building was opened to the public the following year as the Stonebridge Inn, a bed and breakfast. Fire nearly destroyed the stone bridge in 1996. Afterward, the town of Poultney raised over $800,000 in grants and donations to restore the building to its original grandeur. It's now home to a variety of community service organizations, including the Poultney Visitor Center, and it's often open for an informal tour. Finally, we invite you to follow the other tours in this series, East Poultney and the Poultney Driving Tour. Together, these audio tours explore the Poultney area, a region that embodies the history of small towns in America. The Destination Poultney Tours are brought to you by the Poultney Historical Society, the Town of Poultney, and Green Mountain College, and are supported in part by a Preserve America grant administered by the National Park Service, Department of the Interior. For more information on the audio tours and other attractions, drop by the Poultney Visitors Center at the Stonebridge.